Welcome to Home's Room. Just like Homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin. Welcome back. We have an interesting episode. We were just talking about it before we jumped on, and I don't know how much research Caitlin got done on the original prompt for this episode, but when I started researching it, it was harder. And I heard these things and I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of stuff out there for it. And the fact that I couldn't find it readily means that it probably is a conversation that needs to happen. What's up, Caitlin? Was it hard for you to research as well?
Well, it turns out yet again, I am once again stranded on a desert island of my own lived experience. And the fact that ADHD and neurodivergency in women is under-researched. Shocking.
Yeah. Stupid. So the prompt was, let's look up crazy sex facts, but with a mental health ADHD kind of twist to it. So things related to the mental health side. And when I started searching, it was I could find things and I could find studies, but it wasn't facts. It was just when studied, this 46% of people, and I was well, that doesn't make for a good episode and not quite what I was looking for, because originally what came up was it's hard to focus. It's hard to do this. It's hard to reach climax. All of these random things in this episode of something I was listening to. I don't remember what it was. But it was man, that would be a good episode to dive into, because it seems like there's information out there, and there wasn't. And now I'm sad because we didn't get to do that. But Caitlin, you have some information. I have a list. Let's see if we can salvage this episode. What do you say?
Let's do it. And you know what? Sometimes when we have a plan and the research doesn't actually line up with our hopes and dreams for the episode, we tend to fall down what's called a Home's Room rabbit hole. So who knows? You and I are just along for the journey.
So I have a list of sex facts, but it's a little bit more detailed than just when you hold your left toe this way, this happens kind of thing. So with my list, I'm going to try and cherry pick the ones that have a mental health or a impact on your mental health or your state of being more so than just this thing feels good kind of situation. What information did you find? Because you said you fell down a rabbit hole.
I did fall down a rabbit hole, and it was more so, once again, informed by my personal experience. I'm late into adulthood diagnosed with ADHD. Okay. I didn't actually, we've talked about my sexual journey. I'm early in my 30s and I'm just now starting to learn more about sexuality, express it freely, all of that. This is also around the same time that I got on medication to help me manage, cope, and treat my ADHD and the other additional symptoms that come with that, namely anxiety and depression. So I fell down a little bit of a rabbit hole because ADHD specific in women, once again, is under research, but I think that there is a much larger conversation to be had about the additional medication that we are prescribed and the side effects of those medications, and the fact that we don't have an open conversation about that. So specific to women in ADHD women and their struggle with libido, there are some estimates that between 40 to 70% of women with ADHD report some form of sexual dysfunction or changes in libido. If you can guess, it's mostly on the lower side, most often low libido. So there was one study that was published in the Journal of Attention Disorders that found up to 60% of women with ADHD reported dissatisfaction or difficulties in sexual functioning, which includes libido, arousal, and orgasm. There was another study that was published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior that found that ADHD women are more likely to experience hypoactive sexual desire disorder, which is another thing that's standard in neurotypical women. But again, I kind of ran into some brick walls because when I wanted to further explore some of these facts, functions, theories, these larger hypothetical conversations based on small sample sizes of women with ADHD, there wasn't a ton out there.
Yeah. That's what I was running into. And like I said, I could find like this study where such and such, and it was like super dry and like stat driven, which is cool, but like the stats were skewed towards the purpose of the paper they were writing, not towards the need of like information and reporting. And I think that is what's ultra unfortunate in our purposes, but also like if you can't find the information as a sufferer, then like how is anybody supposed to find the information? And newsflash, people do not talk to their doctors truthfully. So we got to start somewhere, and WebMD is not where you want to go, because that's just going to make you feel like you have syphilis. You got to start somewhere, and usually it's like a quick Google of like ADHD and sex, and if something doesn't pop up immediately, that's a problem. And there's a gap that needs filling, pun intended. So I guess first thing, like for you in, you said, libido and drive and all that kind of stuff. One of the facts that I found is just on a blanket, and I'm going to tie this in, so bear with me. On a blanket, like women are often considered to have like more suffrage with low libido, and men are always ready to go. But in actuality, men can suffer from low libido just as much as women do. And it's actually a myth that men don't suffer from low libido. A certified sex therapist at Hogue for her Center for Wellness in California. The fact is that in practice, the number of couples complaining of low sexual desire in the male partner is about equal. She explains couples need to accept that it's perfectly normal to have mismatched desire and to work out both sexual frequency and ways of initiating sex that works for them. She adds some natural ways to boost your libido. And I think that those are the studies and things that need to be, again, talked about. And that's why I kind of tied it back to what you were saying, because it's like, if your medicine is also causing that to be a thing, the fact that people are willing to have that conversation, then at least it's like, oh, my medication could be a cause of this. So, maybe again, it's like maybe we schedule a time, or maybe we we mark a day on the calendar, and if it hasn't happened by this date, then we need to reevaluate and find ways to, like, I guess, figure out whether it's was life in the way, was the medication in the way, was, like, did you piss me off and I was just mad that weekend? You know what I mean? Like there's some ways that you can backwards math it. What do you think? Does that surprise you, or does that like kind of fall in line with what you would expect?
It's definitely a perspective that I didn't approach in my research, just because you give me the very unique opportunity to give the woman's perspective on here. And then sometimes specific to ADHD, I struggle so much to specifically articulate to my husband how ADHD and hormone issues and antidepressant side effects and executive dysfunction and all these, things that are associated to ADHD impact my daily life. Like, this is something that I still daily struggle to communicate to him. And I constantly feel like I don't even know enough to try to explain this phenomenon to my extremely pragmatic husband.
Yeah.
I am disappointed, but ultimately not surprised at all that there's not a larger body of research on it. So something for me that I found super useful is to hone the algorithms of the social media platforms that I use to follow content creators that are actually speaking about this topic. So even if it's just anecdotally feeling validated in my experience by other women who are speaking about this really kind of niche topic concerning sexual health and ADHD, neurodivergency in both men and women, is really validating and useful for those conversations that I have with my husband, who is not diagnosed ADHD. Probably should be though, but who knows?
So that kind of ties into this one a little bit. Again, abstractly ties in. So one of the things about it is like having that conversation and being able to put yourself in that perspective, you know, as you just said, like outside of the bedroom, outside of the moment that like sex is on the table. And what does that usually entail? Fantasies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this one says, I assume there's a space that's weird. So I assume it's saying 3% of people have no sexual fantasies at all. And I didn't know that was even that's a small percentage, but 3%. So it makes me wonder whether that 3% falls into the category that we're talking about right now, is people who have trouble. And it says, think you're a freak for thinking about freaky stuff? Nope. Even though most people don't talk about it fully, 97% of us have had sexual fantasies, according to Justin Lim-Miller, PhD and research fellow at Kinsey Institute and author of the study of sexual fantasies and the book Tell Me What You Want, The Science of Sexual Desire and How It Can Help You Improve Your Sex Life. The vast majority say that they fantasize somewhere between several times per week and several times per day. Really surprising part is that there are some people who report zero sexual fantasies. And I think that, I don't know if with ADHD, if that would throw like overdrive thought or an underdrive thought. And that's the thing that like it made me think of, is like, interesting.
So, a few things. Listen, if you've been in college, if you've taken a basic research course, or if you were tortured with a master's degree like I was, the one thing that you walk away from that level of education is a way to poke holes in every existing body of research, period. I have additional questions about the specific data set. Like, did this researcher ask 100 people that they had readily available in their small college population, and 3% of those 100 people said, oh, I don't have any sexual fantasies? But you're also asking 18-year-olds who maybe, I know at that point in my life I had not had a sexual awakening yet, so is what it is. And it annoys me so much that I'm kind of conditioned to look at research studies and be like, well, I have additional questions about the data.
People, remember that part where I said the anecdotal factual information that would be presented with these people's papers and numbers and data wouldn't make a good episode? That's why it wouldn't make a good episode, because Caitlin would be like, and then we would fall down a rabbit hole of how we can't trust the numbers. And I didn't want to subject you to that.
But that doesn't...
Let's listen to Caitlin now.
Sorry, homies. But that doesn't mean that it's not they call it filling a gap in the existing body of research. Mm-hmm. You could find out a new piece of statistically relevant data by just asking 50 to 100 people in a survey sample about this topic, specifically because there's not that much research about this topic in and of itself. So once again, Caitlin's going to talk about Quinn.
There you go.
Specific to fantasies, specific to neurodivergency, it behooves me at this point in the conversation to just generally point out how, I don't know, I might be a weird sample, I might have an abnormal experience, but I've been very open and upfront about the deconstruction I've had to do and the conditioning about sexuality and all of that I've had to do. My husband was also went to Catholic school. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a certain level of just sexual education. Like years ago, I had to sit him down and be like, hey, I just want to let you know that you can just decide, I'm doing this. I want to grab some butt. I want to grab some butt and grab some titty, and we're going to do this. It takes me another 20, 25 minutes maybe on a good day to catch up to where you can go immediately.
Yeah.
That was like, I broke his brain even telling him. So before we even have a conversation about neurodivergency, just sexual education in and of itself, and specific to being educated about the partner that you're engaging activity in and their experience with it, before we even talk about fucking ADHD, before we even talk about side effects of antidepressants and all that other shit, there's such a huge gap, at least in my lived experience about this. Okay. Which once again, I love all of our friends, homies of Hopmes Room that we've had past conversations with that are working to fill those gaps in that conversation.
So that's a big one. And I think that, I saw a thing the other day that was like, it's not my job to like teach somebody something. I don't remember what it was, but it was like, actually, no, yes, it is your job to teach them that. So like when it comes to your partner, especially in situations where it's like, you know, you're not having fantasies or that's not how your brain works. Like I know for like Courtney, that's not like her brain doesn't work that way. And we are slowly realizing that maybe that's ADHD in her and like it doesn't get diagnosed. So like, and she's never been anywhere that it would have gotten diagnosed. So it's like, you know, maybe that's just a thing. But what I can do as her partner is like continue to check in and ask pointed questions to like maybe get the wheels turning as far as like what creating a fantasy looks like, and like small steps of like, oh, that's a fantasy, or oh, that's a, you know, and again, remembering, like you said, that like sometimes it not only is there a giant gap between penis owners and everybody else, honestly, no matter how you look at it, but that, you know, you're quick to start, and not everybody is, and remembering that going in, that like, oh yeah, let me talk to my partner. Like if I were to say, you know, 15 minutes prior to like, hey, you know, like what would best get you in the spot to like be thinking about it? And, you know, would it be like I need to do the dishes, or I need to, you know, make sure that that the house is mostly clean, or make sure that we're in like our room with these lights particularly on and the laundry put away, so that there's not like 50 things that distract you in that moment. Because every little step that you can take off of their, like, I don't want to say sensory input, but every little step that you could take off that input maybe helps you, but also helps them, and you both enjoy it more, because you're not all over the place trying to figure out, well, does she not? Oh, does he not? And like, why are they looking here? Why are they not doing this? Or what is, and those are already inherently a part of those situations. So like, I don't know, seems like putting some steps in place, and, you know, our favorite communication, even though none of us want to do it most of the time.
God. There's homies, mind you, let me also just give the general disclaimer that Matt and I have been out of the dating game in a hot while. So one thing that we cannot necessarily speak to, that I would personally be, I'm sure Matt would too, interested to hear, are the perspectives of neurodivergency and hookup culture. I've been out of the dating game for over a decade. Right?
Almost two for me.
Period. Love it. Okay. Love you, Court. We love you. Love you, Luke, my husband. Love it. But because we've been out of the dating game, I think there's a certain portion of the listeners' experiences that we can't inherently relate to. That being said, having a long-term relationship with somebody going through different seasons of life, like the communication of my husband and I obviously looks so different from the sex conversations we were having in fucking college
Yeah.
8 years ago
Yeah.
versus those same conversations that we're having now. We have 2 toddlers down the hall, pass the fuck out. Both of us are still, our minds are still turning from work and all of that. So, specific cues and all of that, it's still definitely something that I'm trying to learn more about myself so that I can try to hopefully effectively communicate that and have, give him some tips on things that he can do to help me cut down on that fucking 25-minute head start that he's got on me. But yeah, I think I want to specifically say that I'm not shaming hookup culture. I just know that I've had way more success in my current season of life, learning more about myself, learning more about my sexual preferences, but also communicating that with somebody that I know I feel safe with.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I am sure that if you do enough soul searching and you know enough about yourself that specific to hookup culture, that those are things that you probably could have too. I just know that with my own specific journey, there was no way that while I was still out and about in hookup culture, I knew jack shit about myself enough to be able to say, this is what I want. This is what you will do. This is what I require. Let's go,
Yeah. So you said you're talking about that 25-minute gap. So like every second you can shave off of that is, a second to the better. As a racing person, we're all about shaving off seconds. And I think that, the communication factor, but also it's the understanding that like you said, you have 2 toddlers and this, that, and the other thing. And it's about realizing that like you can have those conversations. And I think that that's where like, when it comes to like, I know for instance, like conversations between me and Courtney are like, I kind of bring it up and test the water, see where it's at. And I think that when it comes to like neurodiversity and neurodivergent, like you have to almost like throw out the life preserver and see where it lands. And if they're able to swim to it, if they're not able to swim to it, it's still a life preserver. It's still out there. It's still a shiny thing that like might circle back around to, or you might be like, hey, remember that life preserver I threw out there earlier, and like bring it back up just because so many things are going on. And I know when we have conversations about it, it's like I've talked about like our Saturday morning coffee date, like we go get coffee and then we walk around, do our like shopping, whatever. And those are the times I tend to like bring up conversations like that, because there's just us in the car usually, or we're like, we have like 6 minutes in the car before we get to the store. And then I know that we can get out of the store or get out of the car, go into the store, have completely other conversations about whatever, and then let her decompress and process the information however she needs to, if she wants to. And when we get back in the car, I could be like, hey, so did you think about that? Or, did you? And I get more answers than I would if we were sitting on the couch watching TV, or if we were, going for a long walk trying to have that same conversation, where like ordinarily it would just cause a shutdown, or it would just cause a like quiet introspection, which may or may not be happening. I don't know, because it's quiet. So
Yes.
Understanding like, okay, this is a thing. So now that I lost it, where did it go? So one of the facts that I looked up, and this one has a funny headline. It says, the most popular sex fantasy isn't Princess Leia in a gold bikini after all, which actually is kind of sad to me as a Star Wars fan, but whatever. So if everyone does it, what exactly are people fantasizing about the most in the bedroom? The single most popular sexual fantasy among Americans today is multi-partnered or group, followed by BDSM, novelty, adventure, and taboo, forbidden. And I think that a lot of those things play a part in the mental aspect, the trauma aspect, and like social upbringings. And I think a lot of people, like one of the reasons why we have so many lifestylers on here is because it's an area that people scoff at or look down
Mm-hmm.
at, but don't actually like know enough
Or,
about.
homie, there's just a ton of inherent shame
Yeah.
everywhere with that specific topic and that specific lifestylers, but just that
Yeah.
lifestyle.
So, one of the things that I looked up, and this is an interesting, like, I don't want to say fact because it's not necessarily a fact, but some of the people that engage in the lifestyle, they like husbands that, you know, like we just today one of our episodes dropped with a hot wife, husbands that, like, you know, they don't necessarily participate, their wife participates, that kind of thing. And how it's almost a stress relief to not have to be in sole control of her pleasure. Somebody else can do that. And because of that, that allows him to be more present in the moment because he's not worried about that thing. And I thought that was very interesting because I wouldn't have ordinarily thought that, but thinking about it, it's like, I guess I can see how, like, if you were not responsible for, you know, somebody getting to the store, if somebody else was taking them to that store and you didn't have to worry about it, so you didn't need to leave work, or you didn't need to divide your attention from what you needed to worry about versus what you wanted to worry, you know, there's like a case to be made for that. But also there's so much right now about how BDSM ties into younger trauma and needing to feel safe, and like the tickle fetish is like one of the biggest, like I don't want to say like fad because I don't want to call it a fad, but like tickle fetishes are becoming like way more popular, and it ties back to a sensory need that you were deprived of when you were younger. Just like the feet thing, like I think there's nothing blows my mind more than like when they decided that a foot fetish can come from your mom didn't pick you up enough when you were a kid, so the only thing that you got was connection through her feet on the ground because you were a toddler.
Holy
Or
shit.
you got to be around your parents or your parents' friends in groups, but you didn't necessarily get to be, I guess, treated as like an individual in the room. So as a child, you'd hide under the table. So to feel a part of the environment, you were around everyone's feet. So you became accustomed to feeling connection to a person's foot as opposed to the person above the table. It's like those things are so wild when you dive into them, and all of those things stem back to, again, like I said, I'm going to try and like circle back to the like mental health or the brain side of these things. You know, I think of, you know, somebody with ADHD or somebody with ADD, even like anything that like requires you to pay attention to a determined thing for potentially 5 to like 45 minutes. You know what I mean? Like however long that session is, and almost give not your undivided attention, but like your like full attention to you. Like it could be divided because you could be thinking about fantasies. So I'm not saying that, but like, you know, there's an inherent concern of, oh, if you already get distracted, or if you already have a hard time focusing, or if you already are overstressed and sensory needs are harder for you to filter out, at what point in time does BDSM help you, like sensory deprivation? So like you put on a blindfold and now you can't, you have one of your senses taken away so you can engage in that pleasure more. You have earphones or, you know, white noise in the background, or headphones on, or noise canceling headphones. So their sense of sound is taken away. You know, the restraints, all those things where like you no longer have control of a thing that you have to worry about as a sensory input, allowing you to take in more pleasure in another way. And I think that is an avenue worth exploring for a lot of people. Blindfolds, you know, safe restraint play, start small. But like with ADHD and, like I said, ADD and all, like those specific things, how much more pleasure might be gained because, oh, hey, guess what? I can do 10 more things better with a blindfold on, and I would have never thought that kind of deal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth exploring. So I don't know.
But also, if you are that sexual partner and the partner that you are engaging in comes to you and says, I want to try this. I want to try a blindfold. I want to try safe restraint play. Consent doesn't matter where the fuck you are in your relationship. Consent is still obviously very, very fucking important. Kind of feels like that's redundant to be said, but here we are. It still needs to be said. But if your partner comes to you and says, this is something I want to try, you try it, you end up liking it. How do I, it is such a huge deal for someone to take away one or more of their senses and engage in that act with you. It's such a deep level of trust and submission that they trust you enough to put themselves in that position in the first place to not only enhance their own experience, but yours as well. That's just a fun, different side of this discourse that I really haven't seen too much talked about. Well, like, make sure that it's not lost on you if you have a partner that is willing to put themselves in that position for you and for each other, but also like be respectful and responsible with that, you know?
So I can tell that this particular statement that you made tells me exactly like how new you are to, like, I don't want to say your sexual awakening, but like understanding the like greater world around sex, specifically or in the kink community and like around BDSM and things like that. Because like the lifestyle and things like that, like alcohol is a big part of it. Partying is a big part of it. Consent is a large part of it, but like there's an inherent like, well, I'm at this party kind of thing where some people go into it and have that notion. However, where we're talking about the kink community, it is 1,000% about thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. Thank you for, and I think that on its face, that's the part that you don't hear because everybody gets hung up at the door with kink.
Yeah.
They don't dive any deeper or talk to any people. And like now it makes me wonder if I know anybody that might be able to get on here to talk about the kink community, because a lot of people will say they would have left the lifestyle had they not found the kink community adjacent to the lifestyle, where it's not the same thing, but it's also not completely, apples and oranges. It's, apples and Fiji apples. Like they're similar enough that like you get a Venn diagram overlay. And one thing that like I think that you as modest as hottest Bible Belt gal can do is like, start to do a little research on like the kink community, and not necessarily the kink community in the sense of like finding old guys in leather vests and biker caps, but like the kink community and like what consent means and what, like what actually happens at a dungeon and what actually happens in these environments when somebody sets up a scene, and how much care is taken and how much aftercare is given because it's such a big deal. And I think, like I said, I think that's interesting in the fact that like I appreciate you saying that because it does matter and it is important. And
it's also a completely different foundational assumption that you're bringing to the table as like, this is duh, like, hello,
Yeah. And like I said, to me, it's like when I hear that, it's like, oh, hey, but like also it made me think. So like, sorry, Mom, sorry, Dad, if you're listening to this,
They
I'm
should already not. They should have tuned out a long time ago.
So, like we have hard points attached to our bed. That is a thing that I did. And so like that's a like, oh yeah, we like that, cool. But I can tell you from experience, like as restraint play goes, like that's a huge like no for me. Like it I don't know if it's just like a lot of people say, oh well, like if you try restraint play and this, that, the other thing, like then you learn about yourself. And it's like the thing that I learned is that like I don't like restraint play.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing about the kink community is that like in me saying, oh no, I don't like restraint play, it's not like a, oh well, you should try it this way. It's a, oh, I respect
okay
that. Yeah. And
end of conversation. I'm not pushing my shit on you.
Yeah. And like, that's the thing that I love. And, if you don't like impact play or whatever the thing is, like, it's not pushed on you. Like it's a, nope, I don't like that. Let's not do that. It's okay for you to try and say, maybe we can try some like this or something like that. And I think that that's where it's super interesting. I have another fact, circling back around to facts, or whatever on my list. Cause I could talk about that forever. Like I said, I'm gonna have to see if I can find somebody in the kink community to do an interview. But it says, we were talking about, getting there and getting past that point. And now we're talking about like the actual act of and being in the situation of like, like I said, sensory deprivation, all that kind of stuff. And it says sex doesn't always have to include an orgasm. And again, I'm going to circle back around to the mental health side of this. The idea that sex must lead to an orgasm can be very damaging for people of all genders and sexualities, as it puts an undue pressure on them and can cause anxiety and the two enemies of sexual pleasure, says Melissa Coates, a licensed professional counselor specializing in sex therapy. She says sex is meant to be pleasurable, but there are many ways to find pleasure in sexual contact without orgasm. Taking the pressure off yourself to always climax can lead to a more relaxed and positive experience. And the way I'm going to circle back around to that is when it comes to the mental health side of it, whether you're suffering from depression or anxiety or whatever it is, or you have, neurodivergence, like those things, and realizing and talking to your partner and realizing that it's okay to just enjoy the moment, whether one of us doesn't or both of us don't, whatever that thing is. And I think that that's, I don't want to say try this I'm not like, not your doctor, not your sex therapist. But it's worth it to go in and say, you know what, tonight I'm going to stop just short. I'm going to stop on the 1 yard line and say that that's okay. And when my partner asks, wait, what do you mean? Like, no, I want to enjoy this and I had fun, but I'm good. I want to, and just allow yourself to be in control of saying, no, I'm good. Not as far as, it happens and you're like, well, this isn't working, so I'm not gonna, like, don't do that.
So essentially, if I could translate this to my fellow mouthy millennial neurodivergents, listen, you neurodivergent bitch, I know you love to-do lists. You feel so much more efficient when you're checking shit off. Every sexual encounter does not have to have A plus B plus C plus D plus E, and then this experience is over once this happens.
Yeah.
Okay? Because it also, if you have a specific formula or a certain expectation about how every situation is supposed to go, it fails to meet that standard of perfection or that standard of whatever you're going into it with, you will experience disappointment. Like there will be a sense of disappointment around that experience. And if it's somebody that you love and you have strong communication with, like don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to your partner.
Yeah. Like I said, I think for one thing that helps a lot of people, especially when it comes to sex, is being in control as much as they can be in control of the situation, and not saying like dom or sub or whatever, but like knowing that it's your choice and these are your things. So like I said, choose a time and be like, you know what, tonight I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna stop at the 1 yard line and say, I'm going to make it my choice to not do this. And because I'm going to make it my choice to not do this, it's okay. And then causing a like breakdown of your normal expectation for a thing is going to make everything, I don't want to say more perspective driven, but it's like, oh, I can have fun even though that wasn't the thing. And if you do it the right way, it might actually make your partner be like, oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next time might make them try a little bit harder to be like, oh, and now you just introduced a new deprivation to your relationship where like they might be a little on the like, are you doing that thing? You're doing that thing, aren't you? And now,
Yes.
and now you got something else to worry about.
So as a neurodivergent woman, one thing that definitely helped me, and I guess as a data scientist by trade, hormonal fluctuations and changes in my hormonal cycle and just cycle tracking in general, getting to that point where I'm like, this is what I know is happening. This is what I can expect. That has helped me a lot. But specific to ADHD and neurodivergency, and again, another part of this whole discourse that I wish was more fucking researched was all of the things we've been talking about, but specific in the context of dopamine dysregulation. Like we are constantly looking for dopamine where we don't get dopamine hits in neurotypical means. So if we have a lower baseline of dopamine, it of course impacts our executive dysfunction, our motivation. It can change and alter our sexual desire, but neurotypical women mostly describe needing a higher threshold of stimulation, emotional or physical, to get sexually interested. And that directly ties into the ways that ADHD and neurodiversity impacts our dopamine levels. So again, I think it's really super empowering and encouraging to explore specific things about sexual endeavors, like specific to me and my husband. I saw it on TikTok. There was there's like a BDSM or like a kink quiz that assigns different industry standard.
I got a link for that if anybody wants it. I can put that in our show notes.
Let's please do that, because it was kind of obviously I learned a lot about myself because it gives you a certain list of questions and it assigns different.
Hold on, wait, pause. Was it the one that's like the graphic is black and then it's got like the
green, yellow, red?
Yeah.
Yep, that one.
That's a good one. That is a good one. I think that one is pretty accurate.
It's like BDSM.org or something. I don't know. So
that's what I have that one. I can
find it. But I sat down and I took it, and then I also sent it to my husband, and we sat down and talked about our results, and it was very enlightening. But just to use it, as both of us at face value are kind of pragmatic people when it comes to data. It was more data to have an educated conversation about each other, but also specific to our own individualized experiences, things that we want and need and require of each other in the bedroom.
You're gonna make me look it up now. So I think any quiz that you can take, yes, no, maybe lists, all of those kinds of things are like, I think, super helpful. Not only because it's just like a conversation starter, icebreaker, like, oh, we can have these conversations, but I think they're just worth it. They're just worth it. Another one of those is called sex values. And it kind of gives you a similar result. It's broken down in attraction, sexual drive, dominance axis, deviance axis, and affection axis, and like how you deem that. I'm trying to find the other one so I can, because there's just so many options or so many like data points on it, I guess, if you will. I want to say it was like quite a few questions too. But while I'm looking for that, I will tell you about some other facts that I came across that cracked me up. So this one says, you were talking about cycle and tracking. This one says a woman is more likely to consider committing adultery during ovulation than any other time in her menstrual cycle.
Duh.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that one made me laugh. It was like, okay.
Listen, I don't know what it is. I try to be. We've had prior conversations about how you are so open to otherworldly experiences and I'm not.
Yeah.
But if I'm ovulating during a full fucking moon, chain me up to the fucking fence post in the back. Okay. And I don't know what it is, or, there's just certain other environmental things where I'm like, and again, maybe I'm more self-aware of it because I am in tune with my body in terms of hormone cycle tracking and all of that. I don't know.
Yeah. This other one was the American Psychiatric Association listed homosexuality as a mental illness until 1973.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yep, that's a unfortunate fact.
It used to be in the DSM-5, like that manual of mental illnesses for a long time.
Yeah. And it's like, that's, yeah. And then this, I don't know what this is, but it made me like super curious to like, it says one Tenga men's sex toy is sold every 5 seconds, and it's TENGA. Tenga? I don't know.
Hold on, let me Google it. Yeah. Do a PG description of it. Yeah. Hold on.
It was like, I don't know what that is, but that's hilarious that it's every 5 seconds. I was not expecting that one. Those are just, like I said, some random ones that I came across. So like I said, when it comes to,
oh, it's a pocket pee.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yes, it's a specific brand
I don't know what that is.
It's a specific brand of pocket peas.
Okay, that makes sense. I was like, I don't know what this is.
Based in China.
Fair. So like I said, it just becomes a silly thing. Okay, I found. Of course, it went back to the other. Yeah. So this one has like just. They rank them, so it's not always going to be in this order. It just kind of depends. If you're smart, I guess you can figure this out. But it says switch, voyeur, experimentalist, non-monogamous, dominant, rigor, brat tamer, submissive, sadist, degrader, exhibitionist, primal (parentheses hunter), rope bunny, brat, vanilla, master, mistress, misogynist, slave, prey, primal, and that's the flip side of hunter, owner, degradee, daddy, mommy, pet, age player / boy, girl, and that's like little boy, little girl kind of play. But yeah, so there's a ton of information that it gets ranked, and I think I'm pretty sure I've shared this to my social media before. I don't remember, but I think doing those things is like learning about yourself and questioning the results. Like, oh, do I actually think that? And not being afraid to like take those tests, I think is the big step. And it's like, look at your partner and be like, hey, guess what I did? Look.
With or without a partner, just to even learn more about yourself.
Yeah. If you're alone, you should definitely be doing these, because that's the only way that you're gonna like know what you're looking for and to like narrow down the search. If you're just out there like in the fucking Atlantic Ocean throwing out fishing lines, like I don't know what you're expecting. Come back with the fucking soup can and be like, what? But yeah, so again, with the mental health side of it, I think tracking those things and just being more aware of like what you don't want. Like I thought in the interview that dropped today, the pineapple pinup, she said specifically that when I asked her what something about like what she was into in some sort of way, and she couldn't figure out an answer, and she's like, well, let me start with what we aren't into. And sometimes finding out what you don't like is a good way to filter into what you do like. And when it comes to mental health specifically, like what kinds of therapy or what kind of conversations or what kind of friendships don't help you, and those are the ones that make you appreciate the friends that do help you, Caitlin. But you have to think about, okay, this is the same kind of problem. I have, this hang up or this thing that's like causing me less pleasure than I would like it to. How do I work this problem? It's like, okay, well, when the TV's on, or when, like a good funny movie and somebody says something funny and now I'm completely out of the moment because like that just happened over there. Or like, why is this song on this playlist? Like that is that and it's like, I didn't know he said that. Is that what he's talking about in this song? And now like you're completely out of the moment because you're distracted or you're not, whatever. And that can happen to anybody, but specifically in the context of this conversation, those are the things where it's like, speak up and say, oh, hey, this doesn't work for me. That's not a thing that like I want to do. So like, Caitlin, and I'm not asking this in like the context of like the bedroom. I'm just asking this in the context of like in general. Have you set a boundary with either Luke or anybody else for that matter, where like you realize something in your ADHD is like triggering because they're doing this, or you're in an environment that's like non-permissive for whatever reason, and you say, hey, I'm fine with this, but we can't, like, I need this thing to not be there, or I need it quieter, I need it this way, to try and like aid in that?
Yes. Question mark. With my husband, again, we've had conversations about, you're 400 meters ahead of me in a sprint. And that, I think, has been like the only time that I've had a limit about a conversation about a limit like that. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
So like those are the things that like I challenge everybody to try and figure out, like, what's one thing that like you could be like, I really hate when this happens. Like for me, I think I've said it on here before too. I fucking hate like gentle touches. Like if it's a firm touch and like you think that it's like too hard, or you think that it's going to be like too aggressive, or you think that it's going to like scare me, whatever, fine. I would much rather that than like a tickly, like fluttery touch. I fucking hate them so much. And it's like, I have to constantly tell Courtney, like, can you not do that?
yeah,
Because whatever that thing is, no matter what the situation is, it'll always put me in like now I'm uncomfortable. So like when we're trying to be extra comfortable, that's not a thing that I like, don't do it.
I just want to also bring it to your attention, homie, that if Caitlin a year ago could see us now,
I know. I told you
having this conversation.
I shouted that out in our episode of like, things I'm proud of.
I'm sitting here knowing full and well that a year ago, if not more recently than that, if this would have been a topic that you would have put on the Google Doc of like, let's have this conversation, I would have been like, hard no.
Yeah.
Nope. No. I think that it's, again, this is a topic of like self-discovery and all that other granola shit that comes with it, that happens over time. What a testament to the friendship that we have, the place and the level of safety and security that I feel here with our homies at Hopmes Room, that a year ago I would have clutched my pearls, if not had a spontaneous aneurysm at this being a topic of conversation. And we've also just talked about this entire topic for an hour. So
yeah, exactly. So, like I said, I think, I don't know, if you were going to go give somebody advice on this, some like closing advice on like stepping into, I don't want to say mastering like themselves, not specifically, mastering like what their partner does or how to engage with their partner, but just like one thing to like stepping off point for them. What kind of advice would you give?
The immediate first piece of advice I would say would be to download Quinn, Quinn. I have had more exploring different types of tropes, different types of kinks, different types of circumstances, situations, voice actors, preferences in a safe place like that, away from any perception of shame or judgment from others, that's been super rewarding for me to just explore what I like and don't like. But with hormone cycling, tracking my cycle, but also doing enough research about how my antidepressants, how my stimulant, I'm currently taking long or extended release Adderall. Everything that you put into your body has some type of impact on your libido. Do your research, be in tune with yourself, your body, and your medication. I know that when you're at the doctor's office, if the conversation is be a functioning human being, be a better version of yourself in the context of being a wife and a mother and an employee, if that has to take the front seat from your libido for a little bit, do that. Get safe, get out of survival mode, but then start to have those additional conversations and do that additional research of like, hey, maybe Lexapro is doing this to me. Maybe I need to have a conversation with my doctor about how my SSRIs are impacting me and my libido. It's all different complicated pieces of the puzzle. The work is necessary and it is still a worthy endeavor. Don't give up. I know it's probably very frustrating. So
her advice is, go to Quinn and find and like explore in an environment from shame, like where it's shame free. My advice is it's okay to like what you like, and it's okay to not like what you don't like. Just as much as people say, oh, well, try that, you might like it. It's okay to say, no, I don't like it. Thank you very much. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And like one of my favorite like stupid sayings is like, I'll try everything once and twice if it's kinky. So like you don't have to actually do that. That may be a saying, but that doesn't actually matter. I think that, like Caitlin said, the thing about safety and, the conversations that we have here, I'm proud of her, number one, for like being able to have these conversations and like knowing how far she's come with herself is important to me. But like as a friend to her, it's awesome to be able to see her have these conversations about herself and not about some distant theoretical person, and not actually be able to put herself in those shoes. And that's one of the things that like you kind of got to do when you're going through a mental health improvement journey or a like self-improvement journey. Any of those things is you got to be able to put yourself in the shoes of like the person you want to be, but also the person who may be enjoying those things or may not be enjoying those things. Like, what does that feel like and what does that look like? And if I resemble that person, that's something that I need to investigate. Yeah. Well, I thank you for having this conversation, homie. I appreciate it. I hope you guys listened and enjoyed this conversation. I can tell just based off the listens on some of the episodes that like have to do with this topic that y'all fucking flock to them. So it's a thing. We get it. We know. Bye. The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us. Theme music by Kinsey. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something. On the next episode of the Hopmes Room podcast. So what I will do is, Caitlin, what is one thing that you learned about yourself that you now like, yep, okay, I believe it.
That I kind of like, I had an understanding that I am who I am and I don't cut corners or mince words. So to just get like another level of confirmation of that, where it's like, no, the crazy shit that I post on my TikTok, like that's exactly who I am. And I would tell you that in real life. or on this podcast or in a conference room in a fucking federal building, I don't give a shit. Like there's too much to do. We have stuff to do. So that is a little bit validating, especially while I'm going through this, like, again, wonky season of not in tune with myself at all. So I like that. What about you, Matt?
I'm skipping past that because I'm the host. So Shelby, what's one thing that surprised you at Caitlin's response to your reading that like made you be like, oh, okay, yeah.
I think it's just very validating for me to read someone's chart and to have them go, oh yeah, that really makes sense. The curing of the imposter syndrome. I'm like, oh shit, I do know what I'm talking about. Okay. Like that is always, I don't get the opportunity to do that very often, and it just is a nice feeling. It's a really nice feeling.
Good.